you can go to your HDTV template right here in either Photoshop or Illustrator, and that will make your artwork 16 by 9 and line up perfectly for when you bring it into After Effects. Plus, it'll also help sequence your layers out for you. So I'm going to open up your character, just take a look at it before I... Okay, yes, this is one layer with that. Okay, so I'm going to hit copy. And it's also CMYK. You want to be in an RGB color space. So once you go to HDTV, it's automatically RGB. All right, so here's a character. And we'll just put them in the center of the screen. Now let's see what we got going on here. Let's try going to my hamburger, release layers to sequence. Now I can drag these out and put them above. And there's my empty layer with nothing in it. Because you can see, whenever you get this color icon here, that means there's something on that layer. There's nothing on that layer, so I could delete it. Now your dog is ready for rigging. So I'm going to save this as. And do you have Illustrator 2023? Yeah? Okay. So I'll send you this file when I'm done. Okay, so now we're in RGB. We've got our layers, and we're in the 16 by 9 that we want for After Effects. Okay, and then in After Effects, I'm going to import the file. You could double click in here, go File, Import File, or just click and drag from your Finder window. I want this to be composition. You know what? Let's not do it this way. Let's do it from here. Where is it? Because it was giving me a goofy import settings. Good evening. Okay, so doing it the old-fashioned way, we get the full import menu. We want to import footage as composition retain layer sizes. So I went to import as, and I chose composition retain layer sizes. I hit import. Now you've got all your layers, plus it made a sequence for you already. And there's all your artwork. Just a reminder, whenever you're using Illustrator, you've got to continuously rasterize it. These are my modes. I need to be in my switches. So I click toggle switches and modes. And here are my switches. Again, that's modes. Here's switches. So I'm just going to click and drag straight down. Now everything is rasterized. All right, this looks like I'll call this front leg and back leg. So leg, front, I just hit enter to name it. Hit enter again. Leg, back. All right, let's see what else we got. Set the magnifying glass. Okay. And then this is the hand, I guess. Do you have one arm or two? Okay, we can duplicate it so that you have both arms swinging, unless you don't want the arm swing. That's all up to you. So that's the arm. Okay. Coat. Torso. Is that the tail? Yep. Is that the hat? Yep. Face. And that's the ear. Okay. Now we've made sense of all of this. Let's stack it properly, just to make our lives easier. The hat, I'm going to parent to the head. I could use my pick whip for that. The ear, I'm going to parent to the head. Okay. Arm, coat, tail, legs. All right. So there's my head. Torso, I'm going to move up. I'm going to parent the torso to the... I'm going to parent the head to the torso. Let me see something. Okay, yep. Good. All right. The magnifying glass is going to be parented to the hand. The hand is going to be parented to the arm. The arm is going to be parented to the torso. The tail will be parented to the torso. The leg will be the torso, and so is the other leg. Now let's test it out. If I move my torso, everything should move with it. Yep. Okay, we're good. Any questions on that, Jenny? Okay, so the parenting is correct. Now we've got to change the anchor points to get the motion we want. So let's start with the hat. I'll keep it at the center. The head, I'm going to move to where it meets the body. I clicked solo to solo it. Just zoom in a little bit. Grab my pan behind tool. And I'll put it right here at the center of the neck. Click solo to turn it off. Okay, now the ear, we're going to want that where it meets the head. Move that again with my pan behind tool. Magnifying glass, we're going to put that where it meets the hand. The coat, I'm going to put at the bottom, I guess. The hand, I'm going to put it where it meets the arm, right there. The arm will be where it meets right there. You might want to round these. Have a great evening. Okay, the tail is going to go right here where it meets the body. Now, these should all be rounded at the joins, but you're working with the silhouette, so you're not going to notice that. So, okay, that should be it. Yeah, that's the last layer. Any questions on how I chose my anchor points? No? Okay. So let's test it out. Again, I'm just going to check with the torso first. That should move the entire character. Yep, we're good. All right, so we're going to do a walk cycle. And it's going to go, the legs moving back and forth. And it's one leg, it looks like. Let me just double check that. Yeah, so it's going to be like popsicle stick legs because there's no bend. Like it should be like a thigh, then a calf, then a foot. So they're going to be very like goose step walking. All right, so we'll use rotation for our legs. I'd hit R for rotate. Okay, so let's start with our front leg. I'll click this for both of them. That's set in the first one. Then we'll move forward. Let's say, depends on how fast you want them walking. Let's do 6, just for the fun of it. And now we're going to flip these. So the one that's going forward needs to be going back. And the one that's going back needs to be going forward. And right away you can start seeing where the rig is starting to break because of that. Okay. So that's okay. Now we'll go 6 more frames. And we just copy the first pose. Copy, paste, and it'll paste where it's at the playhead. And we're doing little by little to add interest. See, there's your steps. Okay. That's working. Now let's do the arm. So at here, we'll have the arm go down a little bit. So I'm using my previous and next keyframes to line everything up. Okay, so right here, I'm going to rotate the arm down a little. That's a little bit too much. It's up to you as the animator. So that's a little bit better. Okay, so we've got that happening. Now, on the down, we could have the hand start rotating. So I'm going to go to my hand, hit R for rotate, and I'm just going to line this up with my keyframes. Since you're doing a loop, that's why it's 3. It's like the first pose, the second pose, then back to the first pose again. Okay, so if I go here and just a little bit past the motion, I'm going to have the hand bobble down a little bit. And then just a little bit past that motion, I'll have it come up a little bit. And then back down to 0. Now let's see what that's like. See how we get a little bit of extra life with that? You can make it rotate less if you want. So I can go here. So that's 10. I'll go a little bit less. So you see how we're getting that subtlety to it now? Okay. Okay, all right, good. Let's look at our tail. The tail, we could just do an expression for that. So I'm just gonna hold down Alt or Option, click the rotation, and we'll do wiggle, because we're wiggling the rotation amount of it. Let's say the amount per second. Let's try twice per second, comma 15. And then I'll click off. So that's just a subtle little bit of life to it. If you want the dog to be happier, you'd have it wiggling more per second, like such. Okay, so that's adding some life there. Now let's look at the ear. The ear will do the same thing. R for rotate, hold down Alt or Option. And using expressions is a good way of adding life and randomness to your character. Click out. See? We got that rustling going. Now, the head should be bobbling back and forth a little bit. So I'm going to do R for rotate. And we did 6 frames. I remember that. And 6 frames again. Okay. So let's have the head go down a little bit. See? Now, with the head going down, we'll have a little bit of overshoot and follow through overlapping action with the hat. R for rotate, and it's 6 frames apart for your loop. Everything lines up. Okay, so this is where the head goes down. I'm going to go a little bit past that for that overlapping action. Then when the head comes back up, I'll go a little bit past it and then have it right itself. See? See how much life we gave this already with just that little bit of work? The things that will always help push it are the 12 principles of animation: follow through and overlapping action, overshoot, squash and stretch. We could, let's try some squash and stretch on this. So I'm going to go to the 6th frame. That's where the impact is on the ground. And then that's our cross through right there. Okay, so I'm going to go right here. And I'm going to go down a little bit. Up, that's up. Sorry. Let's go do something small and subtle. Let's go down a little bit more. See that? Now let's try a little bit of swish to the trench coat just for the fun of it. See if we can get something going with that with CC Bender. All right, so here's the torso. CC Bender. I'm going to throw it on the torso. Now remember, the base does not move and the top is what sways back and forth. So I'm going to set my base right here by the neck and then put my top right down here by the legs. Now let's test it. See how we're getting a little bit of swish? Okay, so I'm just going to add an expression. I hold down Alt or Option while I click on that. We'll do a wiggle again. Throw that in. Let's say twice per second, 12. Click out of it. That's a lot. So let's try and reduce that. We'll do 1, and we'll do 6. So that's a little bit more subtle. See? So lastly, we could try a loop out expression to tie it all home and make this a looping walk cycle. So I'm gonna hit save. Is all this making sense to you so far, Jenny? Okay. I'm gonna send you both files, you know, my rig and all this, so you have it for reference, and you can look at my keyframing as well as the Illustrator file for this. Okay, so I'm gonna try and add the expression right here for the legs. I'm going to hold down Alt so I keep my keyframes, and I'll try loop out because we already have it. We don't need ping pong. I'll go to the same thing for here. Loop out. I'm hitting the U key to collapse those layers. I don't need to do loop out for the tail because that's got an expression on already. The arm, I'm going to loop out that. The hand, I'm going to loop out that. Coat, we'll loop that out. No, it's already got an expression on it. It's got the wiggle on it. Oh, but the scale, I'll loop that out. And remember, you always got to click out of your expression field. Magnifying glass, we doing anything with that? Nope. Okay, ear, that's already got an expression on it. And we'll see if this works. Click out. And lastly, the hat. And let's test it out. Look at that. So we just rigged that character and created a pretty stylized looping walk cycle in what, like 15 minutes? So, and if you want to push this, you could add a blink to it. What I would do is I'd create a layer over top of it. I'm going to do a circle. And set to the same color. And we'll just make sure the anchor point's in the middle. I'm holding down Command, and I'm double clicking on the pan behind tool. Okay, it's in the middle. So what we'll do, oh, see, all right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to parent this to the head, so it moves with the head. Fear not, fret not. Let's see if that fixed it. See? Now we're good. Now we'll do scale. So I'll go forward a little bit. I'll click here, turn off non-uniform, go forward 3 frames. Let's see, so I'm at what, 6? Let's do 3 frames, yeah. Okay, wait, that's what's going to be happening. That's going to be doing that. All right, so it's doing the opposite of what I want. Okay, let me see. All right, so we'll ditch that idea for now. But if you did a semicircle and then a semicircle, it would work. And then you just parent to the head. All right, so I'll send you these files. And just a quick reminder, if you've got your looping animation and they're going to be passing through a scene, set your scene to be long in whichever way the character is moving. Like I'll make a long, wide scene. So I click here on my new comp. I'll call this long, wide scene. And so 1920 by 1080 is where we're animating from. But I want this to be wider. So let's say I want it to be 8 times wider. So if I go 1920 asterisk 8 and then hit enter, it did the math for me. It's 8 times the width that it was before. So I'll throw something in here just so we can see what it looks like. You know, I got to put a solid in there. So, and here's another thing. Since I got this long background, when I do solid, I'm going to want to make comp size before I forget, so it matches it perfectly. Okay. So here's our dog. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new composition called main animation. Make sure it's 1920 by 1080. Sure, here we go. And I'm going to throw our dog into it. And it's already looping and all that stuff. And then I can throw our wide scene in behind it. And I just keyframe the position of this. So we can move it. See, we've got all this to work with. This could be a forest, a city, whatever. So I click there, go forward however many seconds, and then move my background. See? So whatever you draw, just make sure it's either really wide if you're doing a wide loop, or, you know, really
Also, you got the character first.
Well, she's doing a loop, so if she wanted, she could have this character come onto the screen. She could just animate the pre-comp, and I could say right here, have it off the screen, and then let's say right here, I'll have it go back to the center of the screen. So this way we've got the character moving and the background moving, and they're entering the scene, like you said. No extra work at all. And then if I want, I could stop right here, split my layer, Command-Shift-D, or Edit, Split. And then here I could say, this is where I want the character to stop moving. I just right-click and choose Time, Freeze Frame. And look, the loop is over. And I would get rid of that keyframe right there. So there's a little bit of a jump because of that keyframe, but so that's stopping and using the freeze for that. All right, this is a very dense, complex animation. So I use geometry nodes to create the particles used out of the objects here. All right, so let's pretend you were doing Eevee with this. So I'm going to click on my render settings. I'm going to switch over to Eevee. All right. Now this was what I was talking about, sampling right here. My viewport, I'm keeping it at 16 just because it's nice and small. In my render, I'm keeping it at 64, okay? You don't have to have viewport denoising on, you know, if your computer's slow. You don't need that on. But when you are using Eevee, I strongly encourage you to click on ambient occlusion, bloom, and screen space reflections. And in here, if you need it, refraction. And you do not want to half res it. So I don't even know why that's on by default, but that's basically what you want to have clicked on. If you're doing transparency, you would click that on, but I want to see the background here, okay? So this is my basic setup, and then performance. I'll click on high quality normals, why not? Oh, wait, let's see what it did to the grass. Yeah, see, sharpen that up a little bit. All right. So you could go render, render image, or just hit F12. And we're just doing this one frame. We'll see how long that takes. Okay, that was 7 seconds. Oh, then it had to do the post-process. So that's about 12 seconds in Eevee, okay? Is what we got. Let me save this. Save it to my desktop. Oh, and then what I usually do, I do 16-bit. I don't compress it, PNG. If there's alpha, you gotta click on RGBA, but there isn't any in here. All right, so that's 12 seconds for that one frame. So now cycles. Like I said, I had to turn on all this stuff. Cycles, you already have your GPU compute working. And like I said, if that's grayed out, you just go to your preferences, system, and you go to either optics or CUDA, and you click on the top one, not the core, you know, and then always make sure you hit save and load after you mess around with those settings. All right, so we're in GPU. Now, if you're doing one frame, the AI denoiser is lightning quick. But if you're doing animation, it'll cause flickering, okay? So this is set up for animation. So I'm gonna show you what I do for animation. Viewport sample 100, that's fine. And I have denoise turned off on everything. I have this at 100 samples. You don't need to, usually 200 is more than enough for everything. Then under light paths, whatever your highest number is, this needs to be equal or greater, the total. The higher you go, the prettier your lighting's going to be. But for this, I just did like 6, 2s, like 5. The transparency, there's really no there's a little bit of subsurface scattering, so I just set that to 2. But you could lower these numbers to get a faster render time, and just put it where it makes sense. Like if you have no transparency, set that to 0. You'll just slow yourself down. You get full control over here. The other one that's very important is performance. I twirl down memory and performance. All this is the camera render settings right here. I click use tiling, and I use 400 for my tile size, okay? It's usually pretty good. And, all right, so that's that. Then, since we're doing animation, I click on my stack of papers here. So it's my render settings, then this is where everything's going to. The stack of papers, you gotta click on denoising data from the data section right here, okay? Once you do that, then you can use the denoising in the compositor. You can get there by clicking compositing up here, or they also have a compositor down in the timeline now. So I added a denoise here. That's Shift A, then you just type in, and there's denoise. So I'll delete that. X. Since we have the denoising data, we've got, let me just zoom so you can see everything better. There we go. I got my background here so I can see it. But basically, it's image to image. Since I have mist in the scene, I did a color ramp, so you can ignore that. You'd be doing purple to purple, your denoise normal to normal, and then the denoise albedo to albedo. So those are the ones you want there. I have a glare node I put in, and this is what my node tree looks like. This bottom part is just for the fog, because like I said, I've got a mist pass clicked on. But I'll leave that for a second so you can see my settings. That's my compositor. So now I'm going to control spacebar to go out of full screen, go back to my layout, and here I am with this. So I'm going to hit function F12 to see what my render speed is going to be like using all of this compositing plus the denoise. And again, this is just 100 samples. 200 is usually more than enough to get you by, especially if you set your denoising up the way I showed you. Already, this is slower than the other one, but we're just going to compare the two. All right, so that was 41 seconds. This is almost 4 times as fast, but let's look at the difference. And like I said, this is a very heavy scene. Like, that's all 3D geometry in there that I instanced. That's Eevee. That's cycles. Look at the difference. I've got the haze, I've got the subsurface scattering, I've got the volumetric lighting. To me, it's worth it.
Yeah, I tried to. Did I say you guys meant to say sub-render?
Okay. Yeah, so you could look at some of those settings, watch your light paths, and lower your samples. I would probably try 100, render a frame, and see what it looks like.
Yeah, I'll do that tonight to see how fast it can go.
Yeah, work on that.
Then I'll try to send you all the Blender files.
Yeah, perfect. And I can take a look at it. Like I said, cycles, GPU computed, and then my light paths, adjust these. This one is whatever the highest number is here. It needs to be that or greater, and then just set up what you want. And your performance, use tiling 400 for your tile size. And yeah, that was 100 samples, so you could try 100. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, and that came out really nice. Like,
Yeah,
there's no noise in that at all. And I've got an HDRI, I've got mist, I've got all of that, plus the lighting in it, you know. So yeah, all right. And then I'm going to show you real fast the. So I'm gonna
Also, what was that thing that you showed me again, where it shows all those like
the compositor.
assets you can get?
Oh, Blenderkit.
Blenderkit.
Yeah. So let me deselect. I'm going to hit N for my side panel. So I already added it. It's free. Blenderkit.
Just type it on Google.
Yeah, just do Blenderkit Blender, and you set up an account. So it's over here in your side view panel. And then when I'm doing it, I always start off with search filters, free first. And I could say, let's see if there's any free zombies. And, you know, there you go. And then once you get to the locks, like this stuff is locked, so you got to pay for it, but that stuff is free.
Yeah.
And lastly, I almost forgot before I forget, I also click on, let me clear that search. Import settings. Down in import settings, I click on append. That means you'll get the textures, you'll get everything, the materials, and you can change it yourself. So I could download that zombie and repose it and stuff like that. So that's under your import settings. Click on append before you download the images. Okay? All right, now I'll show you that general, don't save. I'm going to delete this. And I'll pick something, let's see, models, search, free. All right, let's think of something big. Let's do building. All right, sure, we'll grab this. All right, here's a building. All right. And I'll just set up my camera. Come on, where is it? View camera. And then here I gotta go to my view, 3D cursor, no, camera. Now I can use my mouse to navigate around. Okay, here we go. And I also recommend getting Easy HDRI. It's a free plugin. You know, I just click world, create world nodes, and I just put my HDRI in there. Do this, go there. And why are we not seeing? There we go. And then I'm just going to hide that. You know what, actually, let me grab a sky one real fast. I'll just keep it on 1 second. I thought I had just skies. Guess I was wrong. We'll just do this one. All right. So if I want to render this using AI, we'll go back to cycles. There we go. I'm going to want to be in GPU again. Now, this time, since it's a new scene, I've got to set everything up right the first time. So these are both for denoise. My viewport, I'm just going to do 100 because I don't need something big for that. And then my performance, use tiling, I'm going to do 400. And here's where it's going to be. So let's try 2000 here. And here's where you pick up your speed with the, to make sure that's off. Yeah, okay. Noise threshold. It's defaulted to 0.01. I'm going to get rid of this first 0. and that's it. Like that's your setup, and you could just change the amount of yeah, see, this is really big for that building. Like, so those were the settings. I was like, let me go through all of them before I hit render, because I'm like, let me grab something big. And, you know, if I let the whole thing run, you know, it's going to take a few minutes. So I'm just going to quit out of that. That's how you use the denoise AI. Yeah, I think it's
Textures.
I think it is so I went file, external data, pack resources.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's what you need to do. Look it up on YouTube, see if I'm right. So I haven't had to do that in a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. Have a great evening.
What the words inside of like the head? That makes sense.
Okay.
Inside
All right. I know. So that's this comp right here. You want the words on the inside.
Yes.
Okay. So.
In the background,
Yeah.
like, or like the fire pit, or like
Right.
the other thing you got inside the border,
C4.
the fire behind it. To make it more dark, like the survival mode you was talking about.
Okay. All right. So this is the you got a faded thing going on there. Here's this. Why is there this extra layer here? Okay, that's that. This is above it. That's what you want, right?
Yes.
So I went to, you know, the layer below. I'm using an alpha matte, and then I clicked off. You had invert clicked on.
Okay. Look, how I transfer over? See how I do transfer over? Yeah, that'll be
Okay, that's the way it is.
yeah, that's exactly what I want.
And then you're fading out the black layer in there, right? Yeah, because there's the fade out.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Then you go to that.
So it's with dark complex to make it turn so that it's so bright and light. That's what I was looking forward to.
Yep. Okay,
All last night.
there you go.
The flute clicks.
It's funny because I was diving through your thing, and I'm like, what's he talking about? I'm like, I can't tell. So once I had you on, it was just a lot easier. So yeah, all you had to do is just click that one little button right here. You know, for here, you want alpha matte. That's what Luma matte looks like. You want alpha matte, and then you do not want to have invert clicked on, just like that. That's all there is to it. Any other questions on it?
No, I did. I faded it in. Does it fade in perfectly? Because on my end, it seemed kind of like chippy and stuff still left behind. I don't know why, but my end, it doesn't seem that clean like it is on yours.
Well, mine's probably faster.
Well, let me see. Pull up now.
It's working fine on mine.
Okay. I remember we did the fading in class last week.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the fly through. I like the contrast and the tone.
What you said go to again for the you said take it off the invert?
Yeah, so right here, make sure you're on this one for layer number 3. And then this second box should not be clicked on.
Okay.
Like you had yours clicked on like that. And I just had to click it off.
Are you in modes or are you
I'm in modes.
go to that's you said
Are you in 2023 or no?
now it's 2022.
Yeah, they changed it. So you're going to want to be set to alpha matte, not alpha matte inverted.
Okay,
And-
alpha matte and then is that it?
Yeah, it should be it. And then I'll save this down for you, just so you have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay, let me go back to the transition screen. It's still not showing up when you go to the scene 2.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm in comp 2, not scene 2, comp 2. I closed all your unnecessary sequences.
Okay.
The only 2 I really needed was comp 2 and scene 2.
Right, because scene 2 got everything on it, but it's still not, I guess, what I just did, it's still not transferring to that.
Well, see, scene 2,
Yeah.
I thought this was supposed to look like this.
Yeah, scene 2 wasn't like that.
Oh, wait. Oh, so we need to fix something in scene 2 then.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
So all I'm going to do, you click on precomposed, take you to...
All right, so here's precomp 2, like this. And you want the text inside here, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. So maybe it's just as simple as doing this. I added the words in. That's it, what you wanted, right?
Did I get over to it?
I just copied and pasted it into precomp 2.
Okay.
So this is what you want. The text and then the video behind it?
Yeah, I was going to change that auto thing. Yeah, that's what I wanted.
Okay. Yeah, so here it's working in scene 2.
Okay.
And then this is where your fly-through looks a little... See how it's not flying through?
Yeah, that's the... I figured I was going to do that. Is it a reason why? Is it a background layer?
Because you have it working in the other one.
Right.
So you got to scale it up like this. So what you could probably do is just copy these keyframes. And then, so... Wait, that's the hug. That's what's on the bottom.
Between.
There it is. All right, so... I'm going right to where the keyframes are. I've got them selected. I copy. Excuse me.
Oh, gosh.
See, now that's doing that.
Is it working now?
Well, what's upsetting is this is working fine. This one looks right, and that's working right. I don't know why this scene is... All right, so let's say you're here. There's C400. So I'm going to copy this. Let's see.
Are you copying all of them, or are you copying?
No, just the background. Let me just copy this whole pre-comp. Let me turn that back on. So this looks like it fixed everything, right?
Let me see.
You find out.
Yes, I feel like you did fix it. Yeah, it fixed it. You fixed it. Hey, well, I'll do it outro. Let me save my life.
Yeah, so examine that more closely tonight. Make sure it's fine, and we could make sure it's all, working. And Wednesday.
Wednesday presented?
No, we're presenting Monday.
Okay, next Monday?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you download it?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
No problem.
I have trouble doing that.
Yeah, it just, when you first start dealing with alpha mats and Luma mats, it gets a little confusing. And, I just try and troubleshoot one thing and then ripple that through the rest of the project. So first thing I would do, see your CMYK as well. So I'm going to go File New, HDTV. All right, so now we're good. So this is going to be RGB. I'll just select everything. What about these lock layers? Are they important?
No, those are just checking.
Okay.
Except for the seat. Unlock the seats. Yeah.
Okay. So you see how everything's different once you're... Looks like the head was locked.
It might be inside main character.
It's probably this. That needs to be unlocked.
Main character? Yeah.
That's unlocked. Yeah, but it's not getting the whole character. Okay, so yeah, this is another reason why I always implore people to work HD first so that it does all this. So this looks like it's going to need to be sequenced out. So let me select that layer, click my hamburger, release layers to sequence. Let's see if that fixes it. Okay, let me take those layers out of that sequence. Yeah, see, we're still missing the head. And it's right there.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's locked.
Ah, okay, so
That's what was doing it. Yeah, so you're going to need a lot of stuff to tile out. And you might even want to simplify this, like getting rid of the highlight.
yeah. I was thinking of getting rid of that too.
And then, trying to move that. Yes, this is doable. You'd have to figure out. I'd probably make a grid and then tilt it like 3D enabled and perspective, make a perspective of it. That's probably what I do for the floor.
Can you show me an example of that?
Let's give this a shot. Let's see how many layers we got here. Do I have to release this? Yeah, this is all one layer. So let me click here, release layers to sequence, drag them all out. You're going to have a lot of layers. No shortage of layers for you. All right. So I'm going to go File, Save As. All right. So let's close these. So I'm going to go File, Import, File. And remember, when you've got that broken down like this, you go to Import As, Composition, Retain Layers, Sizes. I'm going to double click to open it. There's your scene. All your Illustrator layers, you've got to continuously rasterize. Oops, wrong thing. There we go. Now I'm in my switches. Yeah, you're gonna have to figure out like what layers you want to keep and don't keep. Okay, so let's try this. Delete, delete. All right, that's a little better. Let's go layer new. Well, so for your background, all right, so you already saw how I rigged it, parented, and all that. So your big scene, I'm going to do composition, and I'm going to go 1920, let's say 6 times. So times 6, so I did asterisk 6, hit the enter key, and there's your scene. So here we can say layer, new solid, make comp size. Your floor was about, there.
Yeah.
And then we'll put a grid on it. See? All right, so we could say have a good night. All right. Which way do you want the grid? Do you want it to be light and dark like this or dark and light?
Like that.
Like this?
Yeah.
Okay. And then that's where you adjust your border. All right. So I'm going to 3D enable it. That's my switches. See, here's my modes. There's my switches. So I 3D enabled it. R for rotate. Not that way. Not that way. See, now you've got that perspective. And then you can just position it however you need to. Oops. See?
Yeah.
You would just set the scale up to whatever you needed it to be, but yeah, and then it's just P for position. And you see how that grid is going to help show the motion.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, I would encourage you to lay out your scene in the HDTV template,
Yeah.
sequence it out, just so that it's, and get rid of all the layers you don't need, like those highlights and stuff like that. And that'll really help speed up this because this is 156 layers.
Yeah.
You don't want that many.
No.
That help?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, good. And also, we got Wednesday too.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be back in a sec. I gotta blow my nose. Any of these from files, the art folder, art again. And then in here, I made a folder called, I think it's called stock footage. Yeah, stock footage. There's also like the ink drops, but let's try blood drops. Yeah. I'll grab that one. And I'll get one of the blood splashes.
Did you make these videos yourself?
No. It's stock footage. My studio has an account, so I just downloaded some of it for the class. It's the only time you'll get free access to this stuff. You could make these videos yourself very easily. It's just who's got the time and who wants to clean up the mess.
Yeah.
So I'll start with blood on paper, because that's already downloaded. So I'm just going to make a new comp. So here's our new composition. Here's your frog, and I'll bring in the blood on paper. Now look at the difference of, just having the static frog, 1 second, but bringing it in with the more sophisticated way. What is this composition? 1920 by 1080, okay. Don't know why that's so small. I'll use that as a Luma mat. So, your mask, Halloween mask goes over your face. So I'm choosing the blood on the paper. I'm going to do a Luma mat. I'll try Luma mat invert. Let's see what that does. See that?
Yeah, that looks cool.
So what if I had the mushroom below and, oh, is it? Should be seeing where that blood come from. Okay, there we go. See how now it's going to the other image?
Mm-hmm.
So I can slide this down. There we go. Now it's going to start sooner. And then I can say, all right, well, let's get more deliberate and figure out what's being shown. See? Don't you think that's much nicer?
Yeah, way better.
Yeah, and all you do is just use the image. So I just put the video clip above. Then for my frog, I'm in my modes. See, these are my switches. Those are my modes. I just chose, I looked at the number. It's layer number 1. This is for alpha mat. That's for Luma mat. I'm just clicking the box. I did a Luma mat and revealed that. So.
How would I make it so the frog, like the picture of the frog, isn't in a square box? Would I just cut that out with a mask?
Yeah, you could mask it. That would look fine. It looked deliberate.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Soften it up. Yes, that's what the one would look like. Now let's do the other ones. And I'm going to send you this file for reference too, okay? Yeah, I'm wonderful. All right. So we're going to call this one Blood on Paper. So it's comp 1. All right. Got that. Hit save. Make a new comp. This one we're going to call... let's bring in the footage. Blood drops and blood splash. All right, so we'll do blood drops next. All right, here we go. Same thing. We're going to grab the frog. Put the mushrooms below it. And I said blood drops. Title me. All right, we'll close that. There's that. Let me just move the mushroom over again. About there. blood drops. Here we go. Put that on top. We're in our modes. We need to be in our switches. Nope, not switches. We need to be in modes. So the frog, I'm going to choose the layer above it as my transition. And I'm going to do a Luma matte. There we can see it's starting to so what I can do is I can crank this up. So let's try curves. Let's make this darker. Wait, first, let's try this. We'll go extract. Let's knock out the white. And let's soften it a little bit. To about that. There we go. That's the first step. Now let's try exposure. Darken it up a little bit. Now, so that's what the Luma mat's the alpha mat's gonna look like. And then that's Luma mat. So the alpha might work better for that instance because we removed that stuff, see? So that's what that looks like. And like I said, I'm keeping all my settings here for you. Then we'll do one last one. It's going to be blood splash. Let's try that. Okay. We get our frog, get our mushroom. Put that on top. Choose the video clip. And we'll try Luma. Yep. Okay, so that's what that's doing. That's Luma invert. See?
Yeah.
That looks pretty nice. And then we could also try and darken that too if we needed to. But let's try this. Let's try, just for the fun of it, just so I feel like experimenting. That's what lab time's about. Go throw hue saturation on there. Come on. And this time I'm going to go to my reds. I'm going to darken the reds. See? Let's saturate them some more. Now we're getting somewhere. See how much more prominent that is now?
Yeah, a lot more.
Yes, that's how that works. I did that one as an invert, so it's white is invisible.
I like that one.
Yep. All right, so you got all these. So I'm going to send you both this and a saved down version, plus the clips that I was doing. And you saw where they're at. You could look them and play around with any of them. You know, just remember, if there's tone, try a Luma matte, and if it's green screen, do an alpha matte.
Okey-dokey. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem at all. The fast thing is just clicking the HD TV, and that'll give you the RGB space, and I just copy and paste everything into it.
Yeah, but like
The background is what?
Like the background is gray, like everything's gray. I
Oh.
want to know where to put my image, like where to start and where to end.
Okay, so let me zoom out one. Oh, you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
So I went View,
Yeah.
Hide Transparency Grid.
View, high transparency.
Grid.
Okay, I see that.
All right. Now is the
So
grid gone?
The black outline is where you like put your image. Yeah.
The black outline would be your canvas. And then the two greens on the inside, that's your action safe and title safe.
Okay.
All right, that help?
Yeah. So like the green, like the two green inside is how far you should go.
No, you should go to the edge of the black. Just make sure your type is inside the smallest green one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How about the other?
The other one is action safe. Like if there's a big important action, sometimes you want to keep it in there, but you could still have stuff leave the edge of the screen and all that. You know, just as long as the most important stuff is within that. That's really what that's for.
Okay, cool. That was really it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all.